Welcome back for the second hour of the classes for October 31st. We learned in the four-factor theory those four elements, and we put them in an order, and you can see that order here. It begins with values. It begins with values. So we communicate values through personality, our personality and our appearance, physical. Particularly I mentioned to you when you go for an interview, but in life it is same. We hold certain values and we communicate those values through our personality as a medium and the way we appear to people. And there are three components that make this communication a success. That you have the abilities with you. That is your resource, you have the ability. Okay, motivation guarantees that you will be using that. You are motivated, there will be a push there, passion there. And the attitude determines how well you do it, how you do it. So ability, motivation, and attitude. And then you can see the behavior. This is what people see. This is where your impact is in actuality, impact in life. So the behavior at the end counts, but behind it you see these elements there. Having seen this, I'm going to show you a video. Watch the behavior of the geese flying. In a shape like this, taking turns to bear the brunt of the wind in front. So the one who stands in front gets all the wind, so the others can fly easily, and they change and shift and take their turns. It's a great example of behavior supporting a community. It comes from a value that we seem to understand better now. So it will affect basically that. So what people see is the behaviors. That's what they see outside, your behavior. And we are saying that behind that there are attitudes, needs, values, and then down below are beliefs. So we have unconscious beliefs, either from our culture or religion or whatever it is inside. We have a self-concept there within us, and they come like this, and eventually you can see the behavior, and which people can see from outside. We also learned that the three things behind the behavior. What are the three things behind the behavior? Values, needs, attitudes. They all come from another thing called the belief. So out of belief come values, needs, attitudes, and then behavior. If values determine, then we are going to be fine. Our life and our behavior, everything depending on the values we hold is all fine. But that's not the actual reality in life. Very often, what determines in life is not in our control always. It is the needs that determine. If the needs determine, that will be unconscious needs that propel, and we are not even aware, and people see our need coming before our values coming out. A video I am going to show now is a boy who returns from the school, sees a fallen tree, and everything stalled in the pouring rain because the tree has blocked the road. There's policemen, trucks, and everywhere. No one seems to be doing anything about it. There's a little boy coming from the school in the pouring rain. He quietly puts down his haversack bag and tried to go and lift the tree all by himself, which will make other kids to join. Eventually, everyone around joins in singing. So you notice the boy perceives a need. So he changes, or his attitude was right for that behavior, social action. Something I ought to do now. And the community responds. Someone has to move, and the community joins in. And there is celebration, joy, growth.
सर आपके लिए उस पार कार का इंतजाम किया है। चल 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 चल।
I hate this country.
तुम चलो तो हिंदुस्तान चले, तुम चलो तो हिंदुस्तान चले, तुम चलो तो हिंदुस्तान चले, तुम चलो तो हिंदुस्तान चले। पाँव रखो और चलो पकड़ के चलो, फलक पकड़ के उठो और हवा पकड़ के चलो, फलक पकड़ के उठो और हवा पकड़ के चलो। तुम चलो तो हिंदुस्तान चले, तुम चलो तो हिंदुस्तान चले, हिंदुस्तान चले।
This is also our India, where people participate so beautifully and caringly for our country. When you come to understanding the attitude here, it's important to see there are 3 levels in our brain which controls the thinking part of it, the emotional part of it, and the doing part of it. All the 3 are controlled from the brain, upper, middle, lower brains. So in the attitude, there is a cognitive element there. So you can remember cognitive affective behavior, CAB, CAB. Some people remember as ABC also, but the order will be wrong. It starts always from here, cognitive. So what is cognitive element? If you read here, I hope you can read there, that's where the beliefs are. Knowledge about an attitude and object. For example, I believe spiders are dangerous. I believe that getting sunlight is a good thing for the vitamin D or something. Or I like eating papayas. I believe it's good thing for health as a fruit. So it is a cognitive element, the reason, maybe scientific, whatever. Now, when it comes to the affective part is, I am scared of spiders. I love this. So it's the affective or emotional part of it. Affective component involves person's feelings, emotions about the attitude object. Okay, I am scared of spiders, affective part. The behavior part component, attitude, we have influences on how we act or behave. Our influence on how act or behave. I will avoid spiders and scream if I see one. That's a behavior component. So, believe spiders are dangerous. Affective, I'm scared of spiders. Behavior, I will avoid, I will scream. So the attitude has 3 areas and components. Are you getting that, I suppose? Did you know that women use about 30,000 words a day while men use only 15,000? I mentioned that earlier. Normally they say women speak about 2 times more. The man says to his wife. Look at wife's response. Yes, because we have to repeat everything. And the man says, what? Pointing a point. Now you see, let's apply these things in the corporate world. You will be going soon to. First, I put the survival of the fittest as a heading. A red Indian, you see the dress there is similar to normally what red Indians will wear in occasion, special occasion, not normally. Now you see many red Indians, they call them Indians in normal dress. A red Indian walks into a cafe with a shotgun in one hand and a bucket of buffalo manure in the other hand. He says to the waiter, "Me want coffee." The waiter says, "Sure, chief." Normally they call the head of the red Indian particular tribe there, call them chief. He said, "Sure, chief, coming right up." It's the Indian tall mug of coffee, and the Indian drinks the coffee down in one gulp, picks up the bucket of manure, throws it up in the air, and shoots it with a shotgun, then just walk out. The next morning, the Indian returns. He has a shotgun in his one hand, a bucket of buffalo manure in the other hand. He walks up to the counter and says to the waiter, "I want coffee." And the waiter says, "Wo tonto, we are still cleaning up your mess from yesterday. You know, you shot that bucket of manure. What the heck was all that about anyway?" And the Indian says, proudly smiling, "You know, I'm training for top management position. Come in, drink coffee, shoot some crap around, leave the mess for others to clean up, and disappear for the rest of the day." Of course, it's a dig at the top management guys today who hardly do any work. Others do there. Not all, but a few of them. So what is the point here? He was meeting his deficiency needs and not worried about potency for the organization. So there are people who get into any organization, they fill up their pockets, they look after their needs, they look after their family, and not worry about what happens to the organization or the company, the future of it. What can I do more to develop that? They develop their own themselves, they fill up their pocket. So you see this in industry. So the need hierarchy we learn, you are there to see the need of also the organization, the company for which you have been paid. The second example is about a frozen bird. You know that in winter, a lot of birds will fly like from America to the south, to Mexico side, because it's getting cold now. This is the season they go. They migrate them. They are migratory birds coming to India too. A little bird was flying south for the winter. It got so cold before he was able to get out of the cold place, and froze up and fell to the ground in a large field. While it was like there, a cow came by and dropped some manure. The second story on the manure there on it. As it lay there in the pile of manure, it began to realize how warm it was. You know, the manure actually warmed up the frozen bird from the cold. And so it was like thawing. You know what thawing means? You take something from the deep freezer and put in the microwave, thaw it from the cold, no, to warm it up. So as he lay there warm and happy, and soon began to sing for joy. He came out of the cold, he was almost dying. A passing cat heard the little bird singing and came to investigate. Following the sound, the cat discovered the bird under the pile of manure, properly dug him out, and then ate him up. So what's the moral of the story? The 3 points. Not everyone who drops crap on you is your enemy. Somebody may be scolding you, questioning you, challenging you, a teacher, a boss, a parent. That doesn't mean they don't like you. So not everyone who challenges you, drops crap on you, not necessarily, maybe it's for your good. Second point, not everyone who digs you out of a pile of crap is your friend. There are people trying to help you out for their own benefit. So not everyone who stands for you and get you out of trouble, not necessarily they are your friends. Third, when you are full of crap, keep your mouth shut. Okay? A lot of the time, we like to announce it, broadcast, trumpet to everybody for, my pity, my problem, my difficulty. There are not going to be too many people trying to be sympathetic towards you. So it is attitude and behavior again to follow. The bird needed to meet its deficiency need for safety first, but instead jumped quickly to potency need and tried to celebrate it, endangering its own life. So safety, security first. So when your safety is greater deficiency need, keep your mouth shut. That's why Maslow calls it the hierarchy. After meeting this, you go to the second step. Know the hierarchy of needs. Once upon a time, there was a shepherd looking after a sheep, his sheep on the side of a deserted road. Suddenly, a brand new Porsche screeches to the halt. The driver, a man dressed in all latest stuff, gets out and asks the shepherd, "If I can tell you how many sheep you have, will you give me one of them?" The shepherd looks at his sheep, hundreds of them. It's impossible, he thought, for this man to figure out how many he has. And looks at the large flock of grazing sheep and replies to this young man, "Okay." The young man parks his car, connects his laptop to the mobile fax, enters the NASA website, scans the ground using his GPS, opens a database, turns to the shepherd and says, "You have exactly 1,586 sheep." Exactly. And the shepherd cheers. "That's correct. You can have your sheep." He keeps his word. The young man takes one of the animals from the flock and puts it in the back of his Porsche car. The shepherd looks at him and asks, "If I guess your profession, will you return my animal to me?" The young man answers, "Yes, why not?" And the shepherd says, "You are an auditor." "How did you know?" asked the young man. "Very simple," answers the shepherd. "Firstly, you came here without being wanted by me. I didn't ask you to come. Secondly, you charge me a fee to tell me something I already knew. Thirdly, you don't understand anything about my business. You took my watchdog instead of a sheep. You don't know the difference between the two. Now, can I have my dog back?" When you are doing an honest job business, don't worry about bureaucrats who may temporarily interrupt you. Know your rights. Remember that farmers and shepherds and ordinary people have also high wisdom. Not from the computer, not from the books, not from the type of education, but they are educated in the field and they know better about it. So also you may have an innate wisdom, knowledge and a value that probably is more precious than what you learned at the college. This you probably must have seen, or someone has shown you about this monkey story. A group of scientists placed 5 monkeys in a cage in the middle and a ladder with the bananas on the top. So you have a step ladder there. There's a banana on the top, you can see, and there are 5 monkeys. Every time a monkey went up the ladder, the scientists soaked the rest of the monkeys with the cold water. You see a shower there. So when a monkey goes up the ladder, the other monkeys get soaked. So the other 4 monkeys would beat up the guy who goes up the ladder. So no monkey now dared to go up. The banana is sitting because they were showered, they wouldn't go up. So scientists then decided to substitute one of the monkeys. The first thing this new monkey did was to go up the ladder. Immediately the other monkeys beat him up. After several beatings, the new member learned not to climb the ladder, even though now the shower is stopped. The second monkey, then the third monkey, fourth monkey, and finally the 5th monkey. None of these monkeys are experienced shower because they stopped the shower now, but they kept following the same thing. If anyone goes up, they have beaten them up. What was left was a group of 5 monkeys that, even though never received a cold shower, continued to beat up any monkey who attempted to climb the ladder. If it was possible to ask the monkeys why they would beat up all those who attempted to go up the ladder, I bet the answer would be, I don't know. That's how things are done around here. Does it sound familiar? We all experience that in the villages, in the towns, in many of these places. There are customs and traditions. They continue. They don't know why they are doing it. They continue doing that because it's always done that way. So we get into certain behaviors because of certain wrong beliefs were there. Though the source is gone, we continue. Albert Einstein says only 2 things are infinite: the universe and human stupidity. And I am not so sure about the former. From beliefs come values and attitudes and behaviors. So watch out for some of the superstition and beliefs that still create fear, intimidation around us in our environment. The monkey story, maybe you have seen this. An experiment was done with the 2 monkeys on 2 cages. They were given equal reward. The moment the reward changes, you'll notice their attitude also would change.
Very simple task that they need to do. And if you give both of them cucumber for the task, the 2 monkeys side by side, they're perfectly willing to do this 25 times in a row. So cucumber, even though it's really only water in my opinion, but cucumber is perfectly fine for them. Now if you give the partner grapes, the food preferences of my capuchin monkeys correspond exactly with the prices in the supermarket. And so if you give them grapes, that's a far better food, then you create inequity between them. So that's the experiment we did. Recently we videotaped it with new monkeys who had never done the task, thinking that maybe they would have a stronger reaction, and that turned out to be right. The one on the left is the monkey who gets cucumber. The one on the right is the one who gets grapes. The one who gets cucumber, note that the first piece of cucumber is perfectly fine. The first piece she eats. Then she sees the other one getting grape, and you will see what happens. So she gives a rock to us, that's the task, and we give her a piece of cucumber and she eats it. The other one needs to give a rock to us, and that's what she does. And she gets a grape, and she eats it. The other one sees that. She gives a rock to us now, gets again cucumber. She tests the rock now against the wall. She needs to give it to us. And she gets cucumber again.
This is how superstitions begin. They don't know what it is, but they say something wrong. They have to be careful. And so we human beings often do this type of thing. You'll find many illogical and superstitious behaviors in life. Learn to ignore them or try to change them. Test your beliefs. Two guys were hiking through the jungle. They spotted a tiger. Tiger looked hungry and very fast. One of the guys reached into his pack, pulled out a pair of Nike shoes pretty quickly. Changes his shoes. His friend looked at him. Do you really think those shoes are going to make you run faster than that tiger? What was his reply? The answer is, I don't have to run faster than that tiger, his friend replied. I just have to run faster than you. This is the cutthroat competition in the world. This is how world is. Maybe your own best friend can maybe let you down in danger. It's like the boy telling the girlfriend, I love you so much. I will climb the tallest mountain to pluck that flower for you. I will swim through the deepest ocean to reach you. By the way, we will see you on Saturday if it doesn't rain. So this is how the corporate world is going to be. You'll meet some tigers and jackals and foxes. Remember, your protection and safety is ultimately rests on you. However, a noble attitude is to make sure to protect others too. We got to be a good Samaritan. So we need to transform our attitudes from the cutthroat, competitive corporate world into a humane, people-connected world. So this is an invitation. See how we can transform our attitude and our little Chinese boy. He gives to his grandma first.
Well, baby, let's write a love song tonight. You bring the rhythm and honey, I'll bring the rhyme. Make it high, make it low, make it fast, make it slow.
So he gives.
Baby, let's write a love song. Well, it'll go la 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 la, kiss me.
Now goes to give.
Oh, hold me tight. Ooh, all night long. Well, hey, well, baby,
Look at this little boy. Now from China we come to in our own India. And they try to stop So we can also are important thing that we can teach kids. Next story, back in the jungle, a hunter had a bear in his gun sights, but the bear waved at him and asked, "Why do you want to shoot me?" "Because I want a fur coat," said the hunter. What is the answer from the bear? "Well, that's fine with me. Let us sit down and talk about it first." Today we speak of negotiate. As for me, I'm looking for something to eat, and you want a fur coat. We both can be satisfied. Why not? Everything in the world is speak of negotiation, isn't it? So how did they negotiate? So they both sat down for a short while and both left satisfied. The bear had a full meal and the hunter was wearing a fur coat. Of course, inside the bear. The bear ate him up. So what's the moral of the story? We don't negotiate with the terrorists, scamsters, cheats, rapists. We eventually get swallowed. Every day you get the emails about, this money sitting there in, somewhere. Probably it is from a particular country. And then, it's getting money and people fall for it. Because greed and fraud go together. How many young women fall into the hands of people who are rapists? I'll marry you, whatever it is. How many types of scams are going around? And despite all the education, all the training, all the information available, you fall for it. Recently, one of our older members was 83, still driving a car, wanted to renew his license. Actually, it was in Salem and, traveling was difficult. And he approached me. I went to the internet and found, driving license guys. They asked for about 1,800 some rupees, which we sent. Then nothing happened. And reminded, again, nothing happened. 3 days, 4 days, they will say it will come in, and nothing happened. A month when nothing happened. Well, finally we sent somebody to Salem and got the license for this member of ours. And then I also made some threatening messages to these people. I said, I'm going to put this in the social media, number one. Go to the consumer, redressal forum. So I'm going to take action against you. Quickly they responded, sent the money, refunded the money, khadam. So sometimes this is the way. Most of the people don't go complain. They don't know the process sometimes. That's what make these people to come up. I advise them at the end of it saying that do something ethical, hard work and get the money. Don't go for this scam thing and all that. It won't last too long. So this is around, and any one of us can fall prey, a victim to this. Hi boss, people who do lots of work make lots of mistakes. People who do less work make less mistakes. People who do no work make no mistakes. And people who do no mistakes get promoted. That's why I spend most of my time sending emails and playing games at work, because I need a promotion. How does that sound? Remember, SJIM doesn't prepare students for this type of attitude or behavior. But we are preparing for hardworking, committed, dedicated future employees and managers, or self-employed, but committed with an attitude and a behavior that is consonant with good motivation and good beliefs. So it's an invitation to transform our attitudes. Now, when I look at the MBTI, we know we have to take decisions in life so we can act on it and fulfill our desire, our mandate, our business, our life's actions. And we need information. That's what we call IT, information. And we get information through, we learned that in MBTI, sensory data and intuitive data. That's how our perception is completed by these two elements there. And this will have to be interpreted. Our information, perception, need to be interpreted, analyzed, understood. You do it by this or by these. Connection with the people, the feeling, and thinking objectively, you can interpret. So our action or behavior is supported by these. If these go faulty, then we have a problem. So it's important to understand our perceptions in life and our interpretation, ability to perceive well, notice well, see well. It's also the need of the people, need of the business, that's why the promotion in companies do, where the people who are going to buy our product. It's a perception. And how to get into their mind and help them interpret, sometimes wrongly, that you need this product and this product is the best for you. You are interpreting for them, sometimes wrongly. That's promotion is very often doing that job. And so we can be faulty, we can be good. We will try to see again through another story the perception issue. How we perceive in our family, in our life situation, events and people's behaviors, and make a conclusion, interpretation, and our behavior can be sometimes quite destructive or devastating Because our perception.
Before we assume, we should learn the facts. Before we judge, we should learn the story. And before we speak, we should learn the truth. Hey, what's up, Facebook?
So let's do this test to check our perception and our interpretation. They look like stupid questions. Some of it you probably have seen it someplace. The question number 1 is, how do you place a giraffe inside a refrigerator? And you would naturally laugh at it and say, my God, such a tall, big animal, how are you going to put it in the refrigerator? Because your concept of a refrigerator is what you are seeing in your family. Those little 6 foot or something tall maximum, and then this is the refrigerator that is in your mind. We haven't told you what is the size, what is the height, what is the dimensions of that, because we have already fixed notion from our mind, the sensory data, so we interpret from that point of view. And it says impossible, we would say. Suppose the refrigerator is long enough and broad enough, big enough, we said simply open the refrigerator, place the giraffe inside, close the door, bus. Because we haven't told you what's the size of it. So, if you are down, ask what is the size of the refrigerator. So that's a tricky question. It evaluates your aptitude to complicate things that are simple. So how do you place the elephant inside the fridge? Well, you open the fridge, take the giraffe out and put the elephant there. The Lion King celebrates a conference in the jungle. All animals are present except one. Which one? Well, the elephant is sitting in the fridge. The question allows you to evaluate your memory, what you have done in the past. Question number 4, you have to cross a river, but also know there are crocodiles plenty there. How do you do that? You swim through it. Why? Because all the crocodiles are at the conference at the request of the Lion King. So you are safe there. The test allows you see if you are capable of learning a lesson from your past mistakes. Remember the past action. This test was given by Anderson Consulting, and he found out in the test most of the professionals fail in the exam, in the test, but 4-year-olds, little kids, got all the answers right. They had nothing preconceived, sitting there. New perception. Here I have 9 faces in the 9 squares. And your task is to draw 4 lines without taking a pen or pencil and touch all the 9. And you will struggle and struggle, you wouldn't succeed. Try now, quickly. And most people don't know this particular test, would fail in them. So what is this test to help you understand? Because you try to connect them inside the box, inside the columns or the squares, and you lose there. Nothing is stopping you from going outside. So think out of the box. You learn that if you make a line like this, second line, third line, fourth line, all the 9 will be touched. Looks like an umbrella. Whichever direction you take, you can add a handle to the umbrella. So think out of the box. 4 continuous lines will connect them. The solution may be outside. In a village, listen, the story is important to understand in every detail. In a village, the only way of transportation was by horseback. So every adult had a horse to go by through the jungle. So the rich man who had many horses and property, he died, left a will behind for his 3 sons. And the youngest son gets 1/2 of his property because he is lived less with him. And the second son gets 1/3, and the eldest son gets only 1/9. The problem was not dividing the property, but he had 17 horses. Now, how do you divide them on this ratio? So you're called to, solve the problem. As a consultant, you are called to solve the problem. And so you arrive there, and there, of course, everyone goes by horseback. And you're trying to solve them, and you say, I'll give my horse to you. They say, no, we don't want your horse. We only want you to solve the problem. No, take it for the time being. So you give the horse to them. Now they have 18 horses. And you divide by half 9. Second son gets 1/3, 6. Third son 2. So 17. You come back on your horse. In other words, wisdom can be given without losing anything. In life, that's what you give. That's the value you give to people. And therefore, you solve problems using your intelligence and wisdom and experience. That doesn't mean you lose, you gain. By giving, you receive, not lose. So this is where our education must take you somewhere. Take any number between 1 and 9. Okay, any number between 1 and 9. Multiply it by 9. Okay, suppose you take 2, you multiply by 9. So you get 18. Any number you take, multiply 9. Now you mostly get 2-digit number, except if you take 1, you get 1 digit. And you add together those 2 numbers, digit, 18 means, okay. So you get a number. Minus from that number 5. Okay, you get a number now. Now in the numerology, A is equal to 1, 1 is A, and 2 is B, and 3 is C, and 4 is D, etc. Now the number you got, find the alphabet for that number, the letter. So you got that letter. Okay, think of a country beginning with that letter. Think of the name of a country, think with that number. And think of the last letter of that country's name, and think of an animal with that name. Okay, can you write it down? A number, multiply by 9, add together, you get a number, minus 4, you get a number. Think of the alphabet, the letter that connected that. A is 1, B is 2, like that. So you get a letter. Think of a country beginning with that, and think of the last letter of that country with an animal starting with that letter. Got it? There are no kangaroos or koalas in Denmark, or there are no cobras or cats in the Dominican Republic. If you multiply with the 9, 9 has a peculiarity of wholeness. We have India, Navarasa, Navagraha, many Navas are here in India. 9 has a peculiarity. That's why that particular thing about 9, the Bengalis have also 9 seeds for the Loki Puja, Durga Puja. So 9 has got many symbols, Even if you take a Surakshana Chakra, 108 will make it to again 9. So 9 has symbolic meaning. Even the Muslim The bead has got 99 seeds there. Novena comes from 9 days. Novum, Navanal, 9 days. So a lot of those symbols come from 9 there. You see the beautiful combination on numbers 9. Both sides. If you follow that alphabet and number, A is 1, okay, A is 1, B is 2, etc. So if you put a number to the alphabet, hard work is equal to 98%. And knowledge is only 96%. But attitude is 100%. And love of God, 101. You see that? So with the mathematical certainty, while hard work and knowledge will get you close, attitude will get you there. It is the love of God that will put you over the top. You'll say, oh, that's a priest is preaching now. Eh? I conclude with a Chinese, the British PM's to show the attitude going home from the office on a bicycle. You see the values, attitudes, and behavior. Maybe our politicians have a lesson to learn. That is the PM of UK. Stop by
Hello, boys. Good to see you still riding, mate. Hey. It's annoying, isn't it?
Don't take it down. It's no problem. If you want to, don't you worry about it.
Hey, how long is it going to be like that for?
Have a good weekend. God bless you all. Take rest.